the Grafton Cable Oversight Committee, December 19th. And with that being said, I am going to share my screen for just 1 minute. We will work on this a little more on the next meeting to make it flow a little better.
Good evening. This meeting is being conducted remotely, consistent with Governor Baker's executive order of July 17th, 2022. The order can be found on the town's website at www.grafton-ma.gov. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless participation is required by law. Please note that this meeting is being recorded and that the attendees are participating via video conference. Please be aware that others may be able to see you, and please take care not to screen share your computer. Anything that you broadcast may be captured by the recording. Please remember to mute your phone or computer when you are not speaking. Please remember to speak clearly and in a way that helps generate accurate minutes. For any response, please wait for the chair to yield the floor to you. If members wish to engage with other members, please do so through the chair. The chair will now confirm that all members are present and that they can be heard.
Excellent. Thank you. Bob DeToma.
Aye.
Jim Gallagher.
Gallagher, aye.
Bob Hassinger.
I'm here.
Corson Wyman.
Aye.
And Paul.
Oh, there, I'm here.
And we have a guest tonight is Joel Patton from CDA. CDA, can you hear us?
Yes, we can.
Excellent. Okay. With that, our first agenda item is public input. Bob, do you have anybody in the public?
Stand by. I have one member who has joined us. No hands are raised. He has been here before.
Okay. So, Joe, we're going to hand this off to you. We're looking for your progress report and your update on conference room F. So with that, I'm going to give you the floor. I'm also going to let you share the screen if you have, Bob, you might have to do that. If you have anything you want to share with us.
Okay, some of you may or may not know, CDA has been brought in to consult on the AV design for conference room F. The progress that we're at this point is we've been assembling design documents for bid to go out to competitive bid. The design documents, funny enough, Bob, I literally just got them before the call. I'm not sure it would be appropriate to share them right now since neither one of us have actually looked at them. But the design is in process. The design is to upgrade the audio and video for conference room F to make it more in line with the conference room on the first floor of the town hall. With a couple of additions, we are going to also make conference room F as an overflow to the main conference room on the first floor. So that design is in process, as well as some acoustic enhancements to conference room F. So where we are right now, in the process is the design is pretty much done. The documentation is being reviewed. I should have it out to you. I think you and I should have a discussion maybe the end of this week, beginning or sometime next week, depending on the holidays and how time flushes out. And then we can discuss when it will go out to competitive bid and to whom it should go to. Right now, I believe, based on what we've talked about, I don't know if you want to talk about budgetary numbers, but we are, I think, well below what the initial estimate was going to be, which I know that's not heard often in town meetings. But I think because there was existing equipment in conference room F, that it's going to be repurposed into the new build.
Okay, so to my fellow members, I gave everybody a packet over the weekend. In there was a lot of documentation, or 3 pieces from CDA. They did, and Joe, I don't mind us talking about numbers right now because they're just rough numbers. And we're talking less than $70,000 right now. But we did, after Joe and I did have a meeting, I gave him some upgrades that I thought would enhance the room. Some of those upgrades were sound attenuating panels like we have downstairs. Another I'm going to call it a control box for where Dr. Cummings sits, because there's nothing there. Remember, this is conference room F, Bob. I saw that you look kind of surprised that I said that, but the control box is where they can plug in their laptop so it gets into broadcast picks, and they can control other things from there. Almost like what the chair has in conference room A. I do have a plan, and let me open the screen. Give me a second. I'm going to take the screen for you, Joe. This is the first one you gave us back in September.
Yep.
Can you talk through some of these pieces?
Sure. So as it states, proposed upgrades. So on the audio side of things, the current audio broadcasting within the room is fairly archaic. We wanted to bring the audio in conference room F in line with what is in conference room A, which would be eliminating the performance speakers that are on stands on the wall, and do a distributed system throughout the room. So we would do ceiling speakers, much like conference room A. We'd add a new processor, which would allow more audio routing capabilities, some for broadcast, also to receive audio from other locations, as well as dynamic processing, which is fairly lacked for the current room. We're also talking about putting in a floor box in the podium position where the podium / lectern would go. So when there is a presentation in the room, you'd have a podium there with a microphone to pick up whoever's speaking, but instead of having cables draped across the room, you'd have the floor box, which the floor box would then route cabling information from there back to the control room. Where some of the efficiencies are, the table microphones, for instance, that are currently existing are going to remain. The assisted listening system will remain. So those are savings. On the video side of things, there are 5 fairly high quality pan-tilt zoom cameras in the room currently. Those will get reused, again, a savings. Laptop connections, as you just spoke to, Bob, will be there'll be 4 of them total within the table space, as well as the I'm not sure what you'd want to call the table, the witness stand, if you will, in the middle of the room.
Well, we call it presenter stand. Witnesses is what we want.
But the presenter stand would then have an ingest point. So if someone was to present to a committee within the room, they would have a way to plug in their media. As well as we now would have a little more control and routing for video. Part of the overflow as well, coming from conference room A, would pass through the video system that we'll have for conference room F, so that hypothetically, if conference room A is at capacity or beyond, but you still want to have participants at least, or people be able to witness in person at town hall, you can have conference room F now as overflow from conference room A. And then lastly, the whiteboard, the infamous whiteboard in the room. I know people have used that to project onto, or to draw on, or to give a presentation. We're adding a capturing system so that if there is a presentation in the room, that whatever is drawn on the whiteboard can then be captured and archived for future reference. On the control side of things, it's going to function as conference room A does now. So you'll be able to route input sources. So whether it's video or audio, you'll be able to route that to any of the displays or to the overhead speakers within the room. You'll be able to control video conferencing, which when we built conference room A, video conferencing was not what it is now. COVID has kind of taught us a lesson about video conferencing. And also the cost of doing video conferencing is now in your laptop, it's in your hand. Whereas when we did conference room A, the devices necessary for video conferencing at the quality that we're using now was fairly expensive and wasn't practical. So now that we'll be using just a computer and have the ability to control video conferencing right from the desktop, that will be part of the control system as well as telephone conferencing, Zoom interfacing, Zoom conferencing. I believe I touched on everything. You'll have some granular control, such as microphone level, because as we know, no two people speak the same or at the same volume. So anyone in the control room or anyone who is part of cable access can mix the audio for broadcast to better improve the clarity and balancing of various people within the room. That's it in a nutshell, and that's because we're able to utilize a lot of the existing equipment. We're able to keep the budget for the electronics. We estimate somewhere in the $60,000 to $70,000 range at this point. Some of the technology also is become a little more efficient and cheaper and smaller from the original build on conference room A, which is why again we were able to save some money because the equipment cost has come down over the years.
And as you can see by the display I have or the plan I have right now, around the table, we're mirroring exactly what we have downstairs in conference room A. You have the monitors in front, so the let's say the board can see what the presenter is presenting, and then on the presenter's table there's another monitor, and this time there's only 2 monitors for the audience. So we're kind of duplicating exactly what we have downstairs, but we're making it a little bit better because technology has advanced.
Correct.
I think with that, I think you gave us a great overview. We're still not there yet. We have a few more pieces. And Joe, when we're ready again, I'm going to invite you back in to give us the final update. And then we're ready to go out to bid.
Absolutely. So I think the process at this point, Bob, is that per our discussion, one of the things that you want to make sure that we replicated is the acoustic treatment within the room. Now, this is where the 2 rooms do differ. In conference room A, the wall where the windows were, the wall was filled in and acoustic treatment was put there. I consulted as recently as yesterday with an acoustic consultant that we work with, sent him pictures of the room, both A and F, explained what we're doing, explained our intent and agreed. So the thought is that, let me see if I can annotate on this. So currently there is a green painted background here with the town of Grafton seal. And then, these 2x6 painted areas. We're going to mimic that. We're going to mimic it there. We're going to do a 6x6 tile here. We have the whiteboard.
Wow.
And then we'll do a couple more 6x6 tiles here. Another tile here. And from all accounts, this should be sufficient to bring the room to what they call an NC rating or a noise rating for the room, to quote unquote quiet the room. The room's not bad now, but for broadcast, we want to eliminate any kind of reflections or noise we might hear from the room. Good thing is we're on the 2nd floor as opposed to the 1st floor, so vehicles in the parking lot won't be an issue. The blackout shades actually help deaden the acoustics in the room a little bit as well. And then with these 1-inch thick 6x6, or in some cases 2x2 sound treatment, we'll have a room that sounds acoustically almost identical to conference room A. I think per our conversation today, I think all we have left to decide on is the color.
Yeah, we'll have to discuss color. I've got so much flack for the colors in conference room A because they all say they're the Millbury colors, not the Grafton colors. I've been hearing that for almost 8-10 years now. So we'll figure it out. I do like the color downstairs because I think that color works great on the camera.
Yeah,
We'll have to really get into what color, and then I'm going to bring it to the select board and ask them because I don't want to have it for another 20 years.
sure.
Anybody in our group have any questions? All right, wait a minute. Let's start with Bob H.
Yeah. I'm afraid that we don't have enough time for my questions. I'd really
And
like,
let's move to Jim.
I really like to talk to Joe a little off because I was very involved in the downstairs room. I'm particularly interested in the things we can do and some of the limitations on what we can put together downstairs. And it looks to me like some of that is better in what you're talking about here. And to the degree it is, it may be something I'd be interested in talking about.
Absolutely. I mean, I was involved with Conference Room A.
Right.
And I've also I've been involved with some of the upgrades to Conference Room A to bring it into a Zoom environment.
Yeah.
We had to kind of reinvent the wheel a little bit because originally Conference Room A was not intended for some of the things that we're now doing.
Yeah.
And well, go ahead, Bob. I'm sorry. Didn't mean to cut you off.
Well, I'm guessing, I don't know from what we just saw, I don't know what it is, but I'm guessing that some of that gives more flexibility in what feeds you can send where.
Yeah. So
because we have some limitations on what we're getting downstairs. So I'd be interested in to the side talking about downstairs about that. I am kind of curious. I don't. We have the DSP, right? The signal processing.
Yeah.
Both. Well, in this system now, I thought it was more or less supposed to get the volumes right on its own, but now you're talking about a real manual capability, and I'm curious about how that.
Well, in both situations, Conference Room A and Conference Room F, or in any situation where you have multiple microphones and multiple talkers, there's no such thing as it automatically sets itself. There are some things that will do feedback elimination, and it's a process where it hears a spike and it pulls it down. But when it comes to talking heads, town committees, town hall meetings, anytime you have multiple people, you're going to have varying inputs. So, I mean, one person talks loud, one person talks soft, one person leans back, one person swallows the microphone. There's no way to accurately. There is processing out there, but there's no real way to do it properly where you can't have some type of interaction. So what we typically do is in some of the dynamic processing within the DSP, we do some control, we do some processing to the point where we are doing some of what you described, but you can't do it all. So I can't make everybody the same volume, everybody have the same equalization, just by, it's a much longer discussion that I don't think.
No, I mentioned that a minute ago, didn't I?
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm very interested. I was very involved, and Larry and I were both involved.
Yeah, and you and Larry did a great job, and we're not changing much of what you did. One of the things that we are doing that's a kind of a technical enhancement is on Conference Room A, what you had was you had a cross-point matrix for your video distribution. I could do that again. It'd be costly. And because what we do now is we're using video over IP. And using video over IP gives us the flexibility that I still have kind of a cross-point matrix. So I have my fixed inputs and I have my fixed outputs. So we have a bunch of boxes around the table. I plug in my laptop. There is some code in the back that says anytime I plug this in, by default, I go here, right? but you'll have the ability through the touch panel to say, well, when I plug my laptop or my phone or my iPad or whatever I'm plugging in into this input, I press a button that says input 1. I just press something in there. I want it to go to those displays and I want to go to broadcast. So we have some flexibility. And because we're going with an IP over, a AV over IP situation, we can expand and subtract as much as we want. Whereas with the cross-point matrix switching, you had a fixed box. So
Okay, I don't want to get too deep into it. I want to just stay a couple of minutes and then we're going to move on. Jim, you had a question.
I do. I have a couple, actually. The laundry list here that comes out with a 61 grand total, is that the revised one or is that the one that you're going to lower?
No,
No,
that's the one we're working on, and that price is going to go up just a little bit.
yeah.
Okay. On that list, the whiteboard capture camera for $1,199, is that necessary? If we have already 4 cameras that we're using, can one of them be dedicated to the whiteboard and save us $1,200?
I'll answer that, Joe. I'll answer that. You don't get the quality when you're taking a camera and you're aiming it to the whiteboard.
It's actually a little more than that, Bob. The whiteboard camera system that is part of that $1,200 actually is a capture and archiving system as well, so that it converts it to a document, for instance, that is part of that $1,200. So it's not just the camera. There's other things behind it.
It's like a smart board.
On the table mics, I thought I understood you to say that they're going to be reused.
Yep.
And I'm looking at a $4,100 charge.
Not for table mics. There's a table mic. The table mics are listed as OFE, and what that means is owner furnished equipment. There is one new microphone that's being procured for the podium.
I'm seeing under the audio DSP and then parenthetically table mics. That's what I was looking at.
Right. The DSP is not the microphone. The DSP is the digital signal processor. So there are 2 DSPs in the system. They're the exact same DSPs that we use downstairs. And the reason for 2 is several reasons. One of which is for conferencing, you need echo cancellation, meaning that when I talk, I don't hear myself coming back from your microphone and vice versa. So one of the DSPs is handling all the microphones on the table, and it handles the echo cancellation. The second DSP is handling a couple of additional inputs, as well as telephone input. The telephone input, in order to maintain telephone conferencing, which we have downstairs, we had to put in a second DSP for that, as well as, I believe, for video conferencing. So we needed the 2 DSPs mainly for capacity.
All right, last question is why are we being charged for a system test and acceptance? I mean, it's $800. I was almost going to say it's only $800, but what we would expect that if something is installed, that it's tested and that if it looks well, we'll accept it. But why do we pay for that?
Well, don't read too much into the bottom part of the what we call the soft costs. The way we as consultants, when we come up with budgetary numbers, our budgetary numbers are based on manufacturer suggested list price of the products. We then take the products, we put it into that spreadsheet, and we don't know what the integrator is actually going to charge for labor, so we have to estimate, and we have a calculation based on manufacturer suggested list price of the material of what the labor is going to cost. And we typically break it down into, that's the soft charges. You're going to get charged labor to have it installed. How it gets divvied up by the end, by the final integrator in this process, they may call it something else. They're still going to charge you to test the system and to do a bunch of other things. So it's just a soft cost. We could call it anything you'd like.
All right, I just don't like the fact that we're paying to have you test your equipment. You know what I mean?
I can understand where you're coming from. I can call it something else. I can just call it a flat labor rate. There's still going to be a labor charge for someone to put in the system and do what they have to do.
I would have thought that's included with the 10 grand for the contractor labor and supervision.
We can
No?
include it in the 10 grand. As I said, those line items are how we base our calculations for the soft costs. We're not the integrator, but we still have to come up with a dollar amount so that we can budget for the project. So for us to come up with the soft dollar amount, we have calculations based on certain things. I could call that making coffee for 4,000, however you like me to call it. At the end of the day, the bottom line numbers, all we really care about. Actually, I'm sorry, let me rephrase that. We have two numbers that we care about. We have the equipment cost and we have the soft costs, the labor costs. The breakdown of the labor costs, we could break it down any way you want. At the end of the day, the integrators that are going to quote the project, they're going to have their own way of breaking down the labor. At that point, what we'll do is we'll look at their breakdown. If their breakdown has some ridiculous line item to it, we'll flag it, just like you flagged this. At the end of the day, it's going to get tested, whether it's called testing and whatever else, or if it's thrown into installation labor. It is going to get tested. They may take that number and bury it somewhere else. At the end of the day, like I said, we're looking at the soft costs. And like I said, we can call it something else. I wouldn't read too much into the soft costs on that document because that's not the final document. And just one more point of clarification, because we're using an estimate for labor, what we typically do is we'll come up with, as I said, we have a calculation or a formula to estimate what the labor is going to be. However, we're typically 5 to 7% higher on a competitive bid. So let's say it goes out at $61,000. Our budget is $61,000. It's going to come. We typically come in, or the bids come in typically 5 to 7% under what our dollar amount is, whatever our budget is. It's a benchmark, so we know that if they're very low under our budget, they miss something. If they're very high over our budget, they're gouging somewhere. So that's why I'm saying the labor part, I wouldn't read too much into. It's just a benchmark for us to come up with.
Of course, and I'll get you in a minute. So, Jim, what we have here is CDA is the designer. It's almost like when we had everything going at One Grafton Common, we had a Dixon and Salo come in and they gave a cost estimate of what it's going to cost to do this handicap accessible project years ago. They came in at $3 million and they had all those numbers down, just like you're looking here. So at the end of the day, CDA is going to put this out to bid, and then the bidders are going to go through CDA and they're going to analyze, are they in line with what they think they're supposed to be? So these are just budgetary numbers right now. They're not doing the wiring. They're doing the designing and they're doing the checking on the contractors when they bid.
Yeah, part of another piece of our of what we do is, after we've done the documentation, the design, and we follow the bid through the bid process, we'll work with the evaluation of bid selection. And we stay with the project through the life cycle of the project into the warranty phase. So we become the customer liaison after the bid has been awarded. So unlike some consultants, we don't just draw pictures and then leave you guys on your own. I mean, as several of you people have known, we've been involved with the town of Grafton long after a project has started, in some cases long after it's finished.
That's right. That's right. Okay, I'm going to give the floor to Corson. You had your hand up, Corson? Go ahead. Unmute yourself, please. There you go.
Yes. Okay. What I was going to simply point out is that I think to Joe's defense on that, I think that, if you think about it, they're going to be assembling all the things together. Imagine if you had a stereo system and someone came in and they basically set it all up, but they never turned it on to see if it worked. Obviously, they have to test it and see if it all works. Unless, Jim, you're suggesting they set it all up and you have to test it yourself and they don't have to.
No, I feel that they should test it and to make sure it works.
And they obviously have to spend time, labor, to do all that, to make sure it all works properly. And there's a cost associated with it. And it's simply just a line item. Is
Yeah,
that
I
right,
don't
Joe?
like it. I don't
That's all
like
right.
it.
That's all right. All right. We have to move on. All right. Joe, thank you for attending our meeting.
Nice talking with you, Joe.
Anytime. If anyone needs me, Bob knows how to get, Bob knows how to get in touch with me, and have a good rest of your meeting.
Thank you. Thank you, Joe.
Take care, guys.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, I think I want to just go, Bob, why don't you give us the treasurer's report? And then if nobody objects after the treasurer's report, I'm going to skip right to item 10 and talk about the policy that I've been working on with other boards. So Bob, you have the floor for right now.
I forwarded the documents of the new treasurer's report. I worked very closely with Mary Lauria, and she was able to get the information we were looking for. So on the report that I distributed early today, when you look at the bottom line on the document, reading left to right.
Hold on, I'm going to pull it up for you if you don't want to. So it's starting. And let me fix it first. Almost there.
And that's my report.
That's my report. And I'm sticking to it. Can everybody see it now?
Can you expand so that it, you're full screen on what you're showing? Rather than all the app?
No, I can't because
Yeah,
this is all I know how to do.
yeah.
Go ahead, Bob.
Okay, so at the bottom line, it says 3 accounts totaling, and then reading left to right, the first column would be the existing balance. The next column under debits to this period are what we've expended. The next column is credits. Those are revenues that have come into our account. And then the final column is our existing balance. And that's $1,058,256.98. So I'm hoping that monthly now that this report will be fleshed out pretty much the way it is in this report. So it'll make tracking the numbers a little bit easier.
Nothing on that page.
No, it's just one page.
Okay. Any questions from our board members?
No, just a comment from the IT committee. We talked about the difficulties that have been going on to get to where they can do this, and I'm glad to see, I guess, since the last meeting, gotten over the hump far enough to get us our number anyway, so I'm pleased.
Make a motion to accept the treasurer's report.
No, not necessary.
Yeah, it's just the treasurer's report, Jim. So, all right, I'm not crazy about it yet, but we'll get there. It's just not perfect. Not that Bob hasn't been trying. It's not on Bob's shoulders. It's really the software. So, Bob, you did a great job. Thank you for bringing that report in.
Thank you.
The next item that I want to talk about, and if we have anybody that wants to come into the meeting, Bob, you can bring them in. I'm just going to pull up the document. It is the Corson, do you have this document? I need you to unmute, Corson.
Yes. This closed caption programming document you're talking about?
Yeah.
I do not know.
Thought we emailed everybody. I don't know what's going on with my computer tonight. Give me a minute. I'm having some technical difficulties. Bob, you know what? Can you open it up on your computer and share your screen?
Can I open what?
The closed caption document. Do you have that?
Stand by.
I just don't know why my computer doesn't let me share my screen. I'll try it one more time. Can everybody see my, all right, you can see my screen now?
Yep.
All right, has anybody had a chance to read this policy that we want to give to the Board of Select to adopt?
Yep.
Does anybody have any, and anybody from the Disability Commission out in the audience that wants to join us? Mr. Datoma?
Laura is participating.
Yeah, I'm on as well. Good,
Okay.
good evening, all.
Good, good. So I was at the Disability Commission and they had a few suggestions and I took them. So the first is the purpose. I think it reads pretty good. I had a problem with some of the wording and I was told that hearing deficit is the terminology, the preferred terminology. So I embedded that in this document. Then for the boards, I only had 4 boards in there. And the first board I missed was the Accessibility Advisory Commission. I don't know how I missed them. And the other one that I missed was the school committee. So as you can see that we now put them in, so there's no questions asked. And then we always need a way out for anybody. If a member of the public would like to request special accommodations for a meeting to receive closed captioning, a request needs to be filed with the Grafton Community Television within 5 business days of the meeting. So I had it at 10. I was advised that's too long. So 5 was a good number. And they put myself in along with Mr. Datoma to notify. That's too many cooks in the kitchen. So I took myself out because it really just needs to go to the studio so Bob can do what he needs to do. Does anybody have any questions or concerns? Because now is the time, because I would like to finish this project and forward it over to the select board.
Right. All right.
All right, I'm going to give it to Jim first.
All right, my question is on the 5 days. Oftentimes the agenda is it's like a real close thing when it goes to the clerk. So I'm wondering if that, with the time limit for the public to request special accommodations, should be measured from the date of the filing of the agenda. You know what I'm talking about?
This is the same conversation we had with the other commission. And if you don't get it within 5 days, that's still okay. Because if you can get in touch with Bob and Bob can enable that controller, he's going to turn it on. He's going to turn it on. But what happens if Bob's out and nobody's there? So this is just giving a starting point.
So if someone contacts within 2 days and Bob's there, we're still going to be able to take care of them.
Bob, you have to answer that.
Yes.
All right, then I don't have a problem at all with this. I think it's very well done.
Okay. Bob H., I see you.
Yeah, I think I had 2 questions. This closed captioning is being made available on which things that we sent out? There's the live stream of the meetings, and then there are various recordings. And I'm not sure I know.
So
some of the meetings are only Zooms and things like that. So I'm not sure what we're actually covering.
I was going to answer Bob, but go ahead, Mr. Datoma.
So if memory serves me correctly, when we first kicked off the closed captioning programming, we were dipping our toe in the water, so to speak, because we weren't sure how fast the meter would run on the closed captioning. So we're currently running closed captioning on live broadcasts of planning board and select board.
Mhm.
And then when that recording of that proceeding is brought into the server, we have to also tell it to do the same thing when it gets rebroadcast. So it's almost a double dip, at least as far as protocol within the server is concerned. We also are currently not closed captioning any programs that are run on Zoom, again, because we were waiting to see how much money we'd be spending and at what rate. I received, go ahead.
I didn't say anything.
Okay, so I received a report this morning that comes in from Cablecast. And at the current rate, on just the programs that we're currently captioning, we would run out of funds in 2 years.
The videos that go to our video on demand server, I assume they still do, although I haven't looked there. Well, yeah, I have. And particularly to YouTube. Do they get any closed captioning?
We don't close caption anything that's a Zoom meeting that gets sent to YouTube, but I believe that YouTube, when you click on the closed captioning feature, will do it.
That's correct. It does.
Okay, I just, if anybody knows about any part of this that we're not covering, let me know.
It's an on or an off function as far as the programming in the server goes. You either yes, give me closed captioning, or no, don't give it to me. And that's basically it. The consumer at home, if they're watching on television, they have to enable the closed captioning on their device. Just like how many times do we see a football game and it says, if you'd like to watch the game in Spanish, activate the SAP function. It's the same thing for a viewer at home. They have to activate whatever device, whatever provider they're using.
Okay, I want to just clarify something. I want to clarify something. So you have, the first one is the Accessibility Advisory Commission. They're only by Zoom. Along with us, we're only by Zoom. Bob DeToma rebroadcast that on GCTV. So now his orders, once this is done, his orders are going to be activate closed caption for rebroadcast for the Accessibility Advisory Commission. So that's going to be taken out of our funds, because even though we're on Zoom, when you rebroadcast Zoom, you lost the closed caption. But when Bob processes that through his equipment in the studio, he's going to enable that Zoom meeting to have closed caption. And that goes with any other boards. But right now, we're only dealing with these 6 boards, but only one of them is strictly a Zoom meeting. Does everybody understand the process that I just described?
I do.
Okay.
Not entirely, but we'll see what happens, and we'll see how the folks that are concerned with it, the commission,
Okay.
and all the folks out there do. The other point, I guess, was your okay. I thought the where you have the 6 bodies listed, I thought I read that as a priority list, but it isn't. So no, it's an alphabetical list.
Yeah, it's an alphabetical list.
I wanted to be careful about putting the select board below the school committee.
Well, and I thought about it, and
Where it belongs.
I alphabetized the list. So if everybody is happy with this and nobody else wants to make any more changes, yes, Mr. DeToma.
I don't want to make any changes. I just wanted to make an additional comment. Perhaps starting next month's meeting, when we get to studio activity, I can include the printout or the messaging that gets sent from Tightrope, and we can kind of keep track of the meter as it goes.
Okay.
I imagine the commission will be interested to see that too.
For sure.
Okay. So
Can I make a motion now?
you may.
I'd like to make a motion that the public access broadcast closed caption policy as explained and as provided be passed along to the select board.
Can I have a second?
How about recommended to the select board? I'd second recommended to the select board.
Mr. Jim, will you modify to
Well,
recommended?
you know, I don't hang on every word. The bottom line is, this looks good. Let's pass it along. All right. So let's just do it. Word it any way you want.
Okay, Bob, do you still second?
If we recommend, the point is,
Recommend. I would not want to make Bob sick.
you know all about who is over whom in our town government, Jim. You were around for it.
Oh, yeah.
So I have a motion. I have a second. Any further discussion? None being heard. Bob D,
Aye.
Jim Gallagher,
Yeah. Gallagher, aye.
Paul,
Aye.
Bob H,
Aye.
Corson,
Aye.
Bob Berger, aye. Motion is carried. Thank you. This was, I think we did some good work here. I will pass this along to the administration first thing tomorrow morning.
And really, as you said, good work there. I think kudos to Bob DeToma, who's been working on this for a year, getting information and passing it along and finding out how it worked with our equipment and so forth. Would have never come this far without the efforts that he's made. And I'd like to see that in the minutes.
Okay, we'll get that.
Mr. Chairman, could you at least try and forward another copy of that to me, if you please, by email?
All right, item 4.
Thank you all very much. Appreciate it all. Thank you.
You have a great night. Thank you.
You
Thank you for
too.
joining.
All your great work.
Thank you. Have a good night, folks.
Thank you.
Good night.
Item 4, has everybody received a copy of the minutes?
Move to accept the minutes as written.
Second,
We have a second. Any discussion? None being heard. Bob D,
Aye.
Jim,
Gallagher, aye.
Paul,
Aye.
Bob H,
Aye.
Corson,
Aye.
Bob Berger, aye. Motion is passed.
I was having equipment trouble, but thanks for putting in that I got here at 7:07.
You got it, my friend. Okay, now
He made note of what it was.
Thank you.
all right, let's keep on going. We're starting to get pressed on time. Item 5, discussion item, audio engineer town meeting. Bob DeToma, you have the floor.
Mr. Berger and I were involved in a discussion to try and find some resolution to the ongoing audio issues with Charter Spectrum. I want to emphasize that they are ongoing. There has been minimum 4 visits by the Charter techs and 4 visits by Danielle DeLucia, who works for Okers. And they have both run exhaustive tests on our system. And as far as we can determine, everything coming out of the studio rack is clean. But as of this morning, when I checked again on Charter channels, we're still getting intermittent popping. I approached the town administrator and asked whether or not we should go before the select board to involve the efforts of our cable attorney, Bill August. And he advised me to pass on to Mr. Berger and the committee that he gave us permission. His opinion was we didn't have to go before the board. We could just reach out to the attorney and pursue it that way. So that's everything I have to report.
So moved.
I don't know if that needs a vote. Bob H, do you think that needs a vote, or do we just?
Yeah, yes. I think it's, yes, I think it's appropriate.
I agree
Otherwise,
with Bob too.
All
I
right,
think-
so we have a motion, we have a motion and we have a second. Any further discussion on that? No, but I have some discussion. Bob H, Bob D, what I really want you to do is I want you to get a conference meeting with myself and you to Bill, and let's have a conference call. we're not going to do a Zoom. Let's just have a conference call as soon as possible because we need him to act on this immediately. I don't know what he's going to do, but he might get in touch with their attorney, but something has to be done. We've been going 2-3 years with this problem getting worse. So with that being said, let's put it to a vote. Bob D.
Aye.
Jim.
Gallagher, aye.
Paul.
Aye.
Bob H.
Aye.
Corson.
Aye.
Bob Berg is aye. That vote has carried. All right.
You have all those visits and everything documented, right, Bob?
No, I don't have a document that shows how many times they've come, but I could check with Danielle. I'm sure she keeps records of when she visits, but it was numerous
I'm
times.
sure our lawyer would want to know that.
Yeah.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, if this was going any further, I instructed Bob to go buy himself a calendar and just mark it just for site visits for the techs. But we didn't get to that point. We're at the point where we're calling the attorney now. Okay. Item 6, creation of graphics for closed captioning. Bob, do you want to share your screen or do you want me to do something for you?
Just go ahead and share whatever you've got because
Well, which one did you put up?
I don't remember.
You sent all of this stuff, didn't you?
I didn't send anything relative to closed captioning. I can just tell you what's going on.
No, he moved on.
No, this is,
Graphics.
All right, let me just talk about it.
yeah, this is 6.
So Mr. Berger mentioned at one of the previous meetings, he wanted to have a graphic that comes up on the screen that indicates that the Cable Oversight Committee, or this program is closed caption enabled and that the Cable Oversight Committee is providing closed captioning. So Bill, when I approached Bill, he created a graphic when the event goes live and switches over to either room A or F, 10 minutes before the actual meeting starts. He puts up a graphic so that it's not a black screen. Coming up soon, select board coming up soon, planning board. And then underneath it says that this program is closed caption. So he's been doing that. I think we began that last week. So.
Yeah, I thought you gave us something for that. Okay, fine.
No, I don't think I did.
All right, 6 is done. And now this is, again, Bob, this is your audio quality for, you know what, I think we screwed up.
Well, you took it out of order, so.
I did. I made a mistake. Okay, so now we get the video quality on Verizon, not Spectrum, because that was just a mistake I made. And this is Bob H.
Yeah, I think this is settled down, but there's been complaints over on social media about the Verizon coverage of meetings. Richard Whitney said, I have to say, I'm watching the planning board meeting on Verizon TV. This is the worst TV I have ever seen. I thought they were going to fix it. Unbelievable what we pay for. And then it goes on and people are unhappy. And we have some other town leaders, Amy Marr, for example, chimes in. Apparently, so I put up that I was asking for it to be on this agenda to find, talk about it, and that I think we had talked about it some in the past, and that people could come here and look in. But then after that, Amy spotted a message that I think had been posted since then that on the Facebook page, which hadn't gotten to me, saying that it was fixed. Anyway, I'd like to. There's been, we've talked. I think there are about 3 or 4 different problems, and when people on social media talk about them, they just, no one nails down which one it is. So it's a little tricky to figure out which one we're talking about. But probably Bob has the update that it got fixed, and if it did, what was wrong?
Well, let me go back to the beginning. Most of the people that participated in the thread that you forwarded to the chair, I spoke to either via chat or by telephone call. Whenever I get a complaint call in from somebody, most common complaint I get is the people talk quietly. There's nothing any of us can do about that. Next complaint I get is, I think my neighbor's paying less money than I am. And again, I listen, but I can't help. Richard expressed concern one day to me about, he was watching the Affordable Housing Trust, the same issue that we referred to last month. And at the time, I was telling people that, well, again, that meeting started off kind of rough, and it is a Zoom meeting, and there's really not much we can do once we rebroadcast it. And then we ended that text. Then I got a message directly from Ray Mead and said that he was home and he was watching Affordable Housing Trust, and he said it was really bad. And I happened to be on my way home from lunch, and I stopped in, and Mrs. Mead let me in, and I took a look at the screen, and we went through public, education, and government, and public and education were clear as a bell. And the government channel, at first glance, I thought, well, there it is. It's just Zoom. But as I looked again, it was quite pixelated, and it was distorted. So with that information, I went and contacted the Verizon dispatch center, and then they got a technician out there as quickly as they could. In our rack, there was a piece of proprietary equipment that belongs to them that needed to be reset. It was one of their encoders, and it was specifically the device for the government channel. The technicians spent about 4.5 hours there, and he actually was before, what day was it? Wednesday last week, I believe. So he also gave me his name and cell phone number, because he said we've monitored now. We monitored the signal now for over 4 hours, and it looks like it's holding. So here's my name and number. If it happens in the next 24 hours, give me a call, because the technicians are dispatched out of Burlington. So it's a schlep to get down here for any kind of technical work. So the Verizon signal improved. I posted the message on social media, and then contacted the people individually. I spoke to Richard. I think I spoke to Amy. I chatted recently with Paul Scarlett, and of course, Mr. Mead. So everybody was pleased that we had fixed it. And some people wanted to know what it was, others didn't. So, but I respond to people. If people call, I will respond the same day. If it's an email, I get back within 24 hours. And the thing that, the things that it's a little bit frustrating is that people know me. Many people in town have my number, personal number. Many people have my number at the office. They know where I am. Why there's hesitation to call and complain, but go right to Facebook. Who knows? But my only thing I have, Bob, if you could do me a favor, when you see stuff like that, please, by all means, get it to me as quick as possible.
Okay. Okay. There was another. I wonder if by any chance we got issues with getting down to the television sets that's connected to the cable. So I don't get to look very much at what we're broadcasting. I was wondering if by any chance the resetting of that interface might have done something to help the 16:9 versus 3:4, the 16:9 squeezed to 3:4, because that's got to do with the things that the cable company does. I think it's most likely there where they have to put a bit in that says this is this or this is that.
Well, this would be what a typical conversation on the phone sounds like, Bob. And the first question is, you're a Verizon subscriber, correct? Okay. So the last time that you brought this up as a topic, Danielle came down to the studio, and she adjusted all of the programming. What we have to keep in mind about programming from Grafton TV is that it gets down encoded before it goes out to the world. And then the two cable companies expand it up to what they want to use. So Danielle was very kind and graciously adjusted the sets in the studio so that we could see exactly how the picture looked set to accept 16:9. So the monitors in the walk-in area, the entryway, are all set to that. So we know that the signal will fit the Charter subscribers. The Charter subscriber also has some, just like we were talking about, they have to select closed captioning. There's also a button on the Charter remote in the lower right-hand corner that says aspect ratio. So if you engage that button, which I did on my set at home because I'm a Charter subscriber, when I engaged that button, I was able to take select board, which used to, like Corson would say, was this big, and I was able to get it to fill the screen. Now, I don't know if the Verizon set has that same function on their remote. I haven't found it. But on our return feed in the studio, when we look at, like this morning, I was looking and planning board came on, and the planning board image went just beyond the borders of the television, so that in the lower right-hand corner, the logo was just a little chopped off. You could still see the lower third, you could still see the nameplates, but the return feed that we're getting fills the screen. So if you're still having issues with it, Bob, I would recommend ask a subscriber to look at your remote and see if you can figure it out.
I'm confident that it isn't something on my remote, but
Yeah, there's nothing there.
I'll look at it in the future. I was just hoping that maybe that same interface got its bit turned the other way so that it was doing whatever it needs to do. I'll see.
Okay. Is that all you have, Bob D?
That's it.
All right, so let's move on to 11, the logo submittals.
Okay, so I sent those out.
I'm gonna hold on.
Okay.
I'm just gonna do my best to figure out, well, you know what? I'm gonna open up first.
I can't talk and share at the same time.
I know. I don't know why. So this is a logo. Let me just open it up and see where it comes. I'm going to stop the share. There you go. I'll share it here. Well, that didn't work. Why is it doing that? There you go.
Well, we can see it.
Yeah, you can see it now. So that's logo 1. I got 3 logos here, Bob.
Just show them all. Let's just so the members can see what they look like.
That's logo 2. Are we voting? Do you have any straws?
Just looking.
I don't know. I think I kind of like that one.
There's 2 of them? Oh, there's 3. Okay.
No, there's more than 3. I'm doing like 5.
Yeah, I found what came out to be confusing. I couldn't.
Can you see what I'm looking at right now, everybody?
I don't know. What are you looking at?
I'm looking at something that says a square that says Grafton,
Right.
Massachusetts.
Town seal.
And
Town
we may
seal.
get into that, yeah, when they start talking about the town seal rather, we may get into the
Yeah, I don't like it.
the indigenous look there. Is anyone beside me like what we do right now? That one there looks like it says GGTV.
Yeah, the first 2, I believe, had the government logo, and then the remaining ones were all.
Oh,
I'm not concerned with the lower half. It's the upper half part.
There is one little difficulty with these, maybe you would agree, maybe you wouldn't, that it's a difficulty. The gazebo doesn't look like that anymore. They went back to the original design that was used in the movie.
yeah.
Well,
You
I
have
think when you go looking for clip arts of bandstands and gazebos, you get what you get. I don't think you're going to get the Grafton image.
I just like what we have. If it's not broke, don't fix it.
Well, let's keep on working on it. I don't think I like any of them.
Okay, I'll get some more for the next meeting. So
Yeah. You know, if you guys are really that hot into fixing things that isn't broken, we can always hire a designer to design a logo for us.
Good. Why, have you gotten complaints from people about our logo?
I did. I got it from Bob H. and from Corson Wyman.
No,
Now,
I,
Bob D, he doesn't have a problem with it.
I don't think that I complained about it. I think Corson said that he wasn't too sure about what we were using for the bug currently. And you know, I don't know. The thing is, when you get down to the bug, it's really compressed down, and it has to be a simple graphic to really make a good graphic. But it's you know, I don't think it's not working.
Okay. Corson, what do you want us to do?
Yeah, what I was saying is the simpler the look, I think the better off that it is. I think the way I know, Jim, you have your likes about the way it is now, but the way it is now is if it was blown up full screen, you could actually see the trees in the background and you can see all of the detail in there, but it's not that big on the screen. It's this little tiny postage stamp that's on the screen. And the point is that you can't see all that detail, and it's all muddled, and it kind of it's almost gets camouflaged in terms of what's around in the background when you look at it. And I'd like to see something that stands out, that really represents what we are, and come across that way. There was one there as you were flipping through them, and I was trying to get to see which one that was. I know you're going through them kind of quickly there, but let's see if I can find it here quick enough. It was the one that basically had an up-close view of what the gazebo was. By the way, the issue about whether it's a bandstand or a gazebo, I looked into that further. It's okay to call it a gazebo if you call it an octagonal gazebo, because gazebos apparently can come in all kinds of shapes. Primarily, a lot of them come in rectangular shapes. That, I think, was the better of the different ones. I'm not saying this is the one we should have, but it's
don't
better.
get into the Benzebo tonight.
No, but I'm saying of the icons, I thought that one was the best of what we were presented with tonight. Not that that's the end result, but it's certainly better, I think,
Bob,
and it's headed in the right direction.
Okay, Bob, take that back to your office. Those comments, that's all.
Yeah.
Okay, so we just discussed that. Let's move on to item 12. Our next meeting will be Monday, January 16th, 2023. Does anybody have any issues with that?
Yes.
Well, then you can't make the meeting.
No, it's Martin Luther King Day, unless you want to have on Martin Luther King Day.
No, we can't do that. Because
how about the 23rd instead?
Planning board.
Okay.
30th.
Does anybody have a problem with the 30th? With that being said, let's mark that down as January 30th.
And just because this happened to me last year, you're going to run into the same problem in February and March, the third Monday.
January 30th. February. So what's going on in February then?
Is President's Day a day off? A holiday?
Yeah.
That's the 20th. 20th of February.
March.
How about February 27th?
Whoa. February. No, planning board.
1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. So let's skip February if we can. Because it doesn't make sense to have it earlier because we're going to be meeting at the end of the month in January.
We're later. Yeah, we're 2 weeks later than usual, and
so February is going to be out, and then this is the last month we'll talk about it. Then we're back to our normal schedule in March. Is that what you said, Jim? March, you didn't have a problem?
No, it seemed to me that it was 3 months in a row, but I don't remember what it was in March.
Well, March appears okay on my calendar.
That's it. So then we're only dealing
January,
with
February.
January and February. February, we're not gonna schedule a meeting.
Okay.
All right. And Corson, you can put that in your minutes.
I move we adjourn.
Wait a minute, no.
Not debatable, Jim.
I-
Wait a second.
Don't second it yet. All right.
No, I withdraw my second.
Okay, because I just want to go through a couple things and then we're done. Is there any old business? No. And now this is why I didn't want to adjourn. Is there any new business that anybody wants to discuss or put on future agendas?
There's a question how that is supposed to work under the open meeting law. We always do it, and
It's only topic. We're not discussing it.
I cover that under public input.
Okay.
Public.
Either way, if nobody has anything, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
There you go. There's no debate. Everybody have a Merry Christmas and Happy Hanukkah.